If it's not in writing, it didn't happen, goes both ways. My new manager at work is one of those people that absolutely has to be in control. Even when you're exceeding every scorecard measure. Keeping you head down. Not putting a toe out of line. She still asks you to come to a meeting room to discuss some minor issue or another. Recently, she pulled me into a meeting to discuss me being late from work. Protocol is to call in, say we'll be late, then submit a schedule adjustment request when we arrived. She accused me of not calling in or submitting a request but was able to prove I did. Only instead of leaving it at that, she insisted I now needed to call her and explain why I was late. That's not the process, I told her, and she said she was making a new one. So now I call her at 6 a.m. on her day off to let her know if I'm gonna be late. She also had a meeting with me because my scorecard for a stat was 99/100ths. With a target of 50, she had to point out the 1/100th I missed. She also did the same for a handling time issue where I am hitting an average of 600 seconds with a target of 1500. She needed to tell me about a call I took too long on. Suffice to say, complaints have been raised to her manager, following an incident where she was asked to follow up on something for me, and claimed, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. I've been asking for everything in writing and repeat that mantra back to her. When she claims to have told me something. Last week, she asked me to see her after my call. I walked over and she wasn't there. So went back to my desk. She asked me why I didn't stay around. And I reminded her of the time she put in writing, that I wasn't to spend more than 1 minute waiting for her if she asked to see me and was to go back to my desk to take calls. Not wasting time. She asked me to come over again. And when I did, she wasn't there. This repeated twice more before my shift was over. Each time I documented, logged out at 14:35 p.m. Came to your desk. You were not there. Spent 45 seconds waiting. Returned to desk and took another call at 14:38 p.m. in chat. She messages me to ask what time I finish. I tell her it was 2 minutes prior. And she says we can catch up now. I tell her that my shift if over. And ask if she'll approve an overtime pay for an out-of-hours meeting. She tells me not to be silly. And it'll just take 10 minutes. I refuse. And say if I don't get paid, we can do it tomorrow when I am being paid. She's typing. Then not. Then typing. Then not. Choosing her words. I know she's angry at being challenged. And she decided to employ one of the tactics she used when she managed a team for a company where this was standard practice. Okay. Well, if you'd like to go home now, I can always make it a formal meeting. A formal meeting, where I work is code for a meeting with HR. Documented on your record, for misconduct and repeated issues. She thinks she's won. Not a problem. Make a formal meeting. Ensure I have 24 hours notice. Send a formal invite. And I will bring a support person with me. I log out and leave. But not before grabbing screenshots and saving a copy of the chat logs. Next day, she's called my bluff and has a meeting scheduled. I send it to my union rep. And she comes in on the day. HR sits down with us and opens with, "So we're here today to discuss some concerns. Your team leader asked you to attend an off-the-cuff catch-up 3 times. And for some reason you refused?" Quote. I quickly clarify what actually happened. My manager claims otherwise. And I repeat her mantra, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Then I supply receipts, her demands to put things in writing, her chat, my timestamps, my call logs, and her message to me afterwards. My union representative stares at the two of them with a small smile, and asks, "So do you maintain the position that employees should attend meetings unpaid? And that misconduct investigations are a good use of resources if they refuse?" Quote, HR said there may have been a miscommunication, and that I could return to work. I have it put in writing that I am not accused of any misconduct, and have been cleared of any false accusations, with nothing documented on my staff file. Yesterday, my team was advised that our team leader had decided to pursue opportunities outside of the company, and we were getting a new manager. I loved every minute of reading this. I will be logging those minutes. Well done. I really don't get it. I'm a manager, and if I had an employee that's demolishing expectations, I'd be leaving them alone and make sure that they get a good increase come performance review time. Yesterday, my team was advised that our team leader had decided to pursue opportunities outside of the company, and we were getting a new manager. Translated from corporate, this means, team leader made us look bad and we are not happy. Quote, many years ago I worked for a company in a salaried position to take into account the new working time directive in the UK. I was on an average 36-hour week, working 3 days in the week and 1 at the weekend. They estimated my shifts to be 9 hours. But in reality, they were 12-hour shifts with 2 to 3 hours worth of traveling time per shift. So I built up quite a bit of excessive hours. When I came to take time off, my manager said that I had to arrange my own cover and I could only take my leave on my allocated days off and had to work my allocated days. I said that she was incorrect and she suggested I take up the matter with so she was surprised when I did so and brought in my union representative. It was at this point HR discovered that I had built up enough excessive hours that I could have 2 weeks off before even touching my allocated leave. 20 minutes into the scheduled meeting, I was asked to leave so that my manager and the HR manager could discuss this matter. I used to work credit and activations for a mobile company with a T in the name. I got in trouble for my average call time being roughly 2.5 minutes when they were supposed to be between 5 to 7 minutes. Many of the people calling in were store owners activating phone for customers. But apparently I was supposed to chat them up to show good customer service. Maybe it's just me, but when I call a customer center, I just want done what I want done, as quick as possible to do without mistakes. This was a pleasure to read. Thank you for starting my day off wonderfully. And congratulations. That's not a team leader, that a boss. Do what I say because I say it. Good evidence to it. Well played op. Nothing like using your now former boss's words against them and see them be out of a job. Oh, this triggered my call center memories. I was a fast call taker and my supervisors liked to be on my case about not getting in above average first call resolution FCR stat. However, my call handle time was half of what was expected and easily the best in a 150-plus person call center. Every supervisor I had, they liked to rotate employees to different supervisors every 3 to 6 months, would get on me about my FCR. I'd point out that from my own follow-up the ones I was assigning out were, in fact, not resolvable with our level of access. Eventually they got a system where all issues were marked in the internal system as something we should or should not be able to resolve. Password resets we should always resolve. But BSOD issues were an immediate sign out. Shockingly, while my FCR stat stayed right around the call center average, I was hitting perfect or near perfect scores on what calls should or shouldn't be assigned out. My supervisor was completely confused how this could be until I pointed out that if I was taking 1.5 to twice as many calls as the average agent, I was going to trend towards the actual average of FCR instead of being an outlier who resolved a large percentage of their calls but didn't take nearly as many calls. They left me alone after that. Did she jump? Or was she pushed? She probably is feeling hard done by. Such awful working conditions. Management won't back up her authority. Such obstinate workers. Yada yada. As they say, what goes around comes around. Good on you, op. Having previously spent 10.5 a year working in a call center, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's definitely not a job I miss. Awesome. Really happy for you. Internet stranger. Wish you could have met and dealt with one of my previous managers. I did not expect such a satisfying ending. Thank you for sharing. Finally, my recurring thought here is people leave managers more than jobs, but dang nerd fury. You handled your business like a boss. No wonder you were at the top of all your stats. I really hope the next manager appreciated you for the excellent employee you are. Great for you, op. Nicely played. Not only did you neatly beat her at her own game using the rules she defined, but you saved your coworkers from a micromanaging bitch. It's hard to believe sometimes how people come to the conclusion that treating their work subordinates this way will get them anything but trouble. I'd hire you in an instant. You obviously have it together. To discuss me being late from work. They never care about that, do they? I've never had a boss insist that it was 5 o'clock on the dot. Drop what you're doing and leave. In fact, they'd love if you were late from work all the time. They only give a fuck when you're late to work. Great job documenting the whole thing. What an awful person. She sounds like she truly believed she was in the right and that HR would vindicate her control issues. You know, I have find tracking everything when dealing with an issue really helps. I used to have Sprint and sold my phone to a friend. Had all sorts of issues with it actually being unlocked so he could use it. I became so frustrated that I began taking notes of times called, who I contacted, who I was transferred to, notes on what I was told. After about a week of getting nowhere on the phone and Googling Sprint customer service email, I believe they still do not have a general email. Multiple times I found an old Reddit thread, I think it was, that had VP's emails on it. I emailed a VP out of the blue with my call notes and logs and got a response within 24 hours that it would be taken care of. I had spent 7 to 8 hours on the phone and in the email advised him how it was valuable time and what I made at work and the time lost, and he ended up telling me it was the most detailed email he had ever received on complaints. Credited me $150 and told me if I ever had another issue to contact him directly. Documentation pays because it proves your side and shows you put in the effort. The lesson to take away from this is to never involve HR unless you are sure you have the high ground. HR only works for the best interest of the company and not for the employees. Had a boss like this once. He decided that I wasn't a hard worker and that I needed to be fired. We went to his boss and he was certain I would be clearing my desk that afternoon. I walked in, made my arguments against him and was asked to leave. About an hour later, my boss and his boss apologized to me about the actions that afternoon.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.